you're going to have a lot of work to do, because our world is changing. I think that a lot of people are forgetting the dangers involved in the development of certain events. I know that we're looking at war, some type of scrimmage between the powers. And I believe that a lot of people are forgetting that the earth has entered into a very odd place in existence, both spiritually and this time physically. The changes will be abrupt and all-consuming. And when that takes place, every argument that seems to hold importance is not going to be important anymore.
Welcome to the WTF Files. The ultimate aim of all science, to penetrate the unknown. The greatest mystery is right here, right under our feet. These are the stories that will make you say, WTF.
Yeah, I know I sound like a broken record sometimes when I say that, but I can't emphasize enough how difficult of a time people will have adjusting to change when this world does what nobody thought it would do, when conditions overtake them. And we've had a 2,000 plus year warning of what would happen. And it just seems like the more people think about that, it's so funny that, for example, this disclosure, right, about the documents and investigations and findings of Air Force personnel, military personnel concerning these craft comes out at the same time that a lot of countries are polarized. And it's not just the USA. A lot of countries are polarized. Even Israel is polarized with the exact same problem. It is, these are strange times. Do you guys know about the experiment that took place in the ocean? I believe it took place several times now, right? And unless you read peer-reviewed papers and know how to read them, you're not going to find out about these things. You have to know how to read peer-reviewed documents, which means you have to be part of a university or something like that to get a hold of them in the first place anyway. They implemented a frequency in the ocean. And when they implemented this frequency with just ocean water, DNA started forming in a box. It was in a box, a clear box. And they let that frequency, but more than in the box, it was outside the box too. It was DNA was organizing itself out of the waters of the ocean by that frequency. It knew how to organize itself, and it blew the entire scientific community away.
It's alive! In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God.
It became a very dangerous subject, but nevertheless, they published some peer-reviewed documents, and people repeated that experiment with the same exact results. The DNA was human DNA, just so you know. That's what the DNA was. Had they let it finished, it would have become more complex. So DNA strands were forming out of nothing, simply by playing a frequency underwater with some very cheap equipment. And that's something. Not only that, but they took some people underneath into a controlled experiment, which would shield them from human residents. Not 30 minutes after they took down or blocked all frequencies, the people became sick, deathly sick, like they had the worst virus you could ever think of. And they were trying to measure the rate of the sickness. people were regurgitating and they couldn't walk, and dizziness and, nausea, vomiting, all that good stuff. It's just like their internal organs lost all their direction. So at a specific minute, they turned the frequency back on again. And within about 15 to 30 seconds, everybody was fine, like nothing happened. That was amazing research right there. What it yields is that in the Bible, when it speaks about men going into a type madness, some of the celestial objects, some of the influences our solar system is getting close to, is already wreaking havoc on our magnetosphere. Our magnetosphere, in conjunction with certain mechanisms in the earth, they keep the human residence like it is. Inside the earth, too, are a couple of mechanisms in the North and South Pole. And this is one story I would just love to get out, but the earth is not sustained by natural things, right? The earth is designed.
You must realize that the planet you lived on was commissioned, paid for, and run by mice.
And we live in a time where people are going to find this out more and more. The earth is highly designed.
Hello, Neil.
Who are you?
I am the architect.
And it has mechanisms in it which produce certain vibrations and sounds and keep, weather patterns the way they are. Recycles some things and gets rid of others. But as we enter into this new area in the universe, we're having challenges with our magnetosphere. What if humanity is predominantly concerned about saving itself? One of the greatest inventions developed in our time are magnets that can replicate the magnetosphere, and you'll find those at CERN. In fact, in a very old paper published in 1948, I believe it was, when they first started chemtrailing to cover ships from the enemy on a big basis, they published a paper. They said they knew about the magnetosphere, and at that time they published that paper and some patents regarding the same magnets they use at CERN. It's funny, the same magnets they use at CERN in this paper were to shield the Earth in several areas from a magnetosphere breakdown. Now I'll say it again, the same magnets that are utilized at the CERN facility, a patent was made for those same magnets back in the 40s for a very different purpose. Anything that can keep a high-speed particle going on a track or a trajectory is a very powerful magnet, and to date they are the most advanced magnets in the world. They are extremely powerful, which is why they're so deep in the ground. If those same magnets were turned on near the surface, it would be an EMP this world couldn't take, because that's a lot of power focused like that. So they need the rock strata, and the layers in the rock. They need that to somewhat shield some of the adverse effects from these magnets. Nevertheless, it still goes straight up. Where CERN is, in Geneva, is the land is positioned in such a way that it has some very ancient rock around it, granite and such, that has a known property to disrupt magnetic influences or bend them. And so most of that magnetic influence is found within that area and goes straight up, and sure enough, that happened. In fact, there were some accidents related with CERN that were, I'm going to say, they were indirectly involved with CERN, because when they lost containment of the proton beam, aircraft were going down. They couldn't find the cause. CERN is also the most powerful particle beam weapon on Earth. What you may not know is if you look at the construction of CERN, you know that where Atlas is can be redirected into any direction they so please. So from this Earth, they can fire a particle beam into any place in space. Do you know that? That was also fashioned in a patent that was filed in the 60s for a particle beam weapon that Earth could defend itself with against external threats. And that same patent had curvature. in the beam, right? Where the beam will pick up momentum through the magnetic forces, hurling it towards an exit point where the detector is. And the detector is made in such a way that you can also allow any beam to flow right through that detector, and it can be increased twice the speed that it entered in. The same detector configuration at CERN is also filed as a particle beam weapon for it's the largest one humans have ever built. It's sitting right there in Geneva, Switzerland. So, guys, remember this, that when the government and international organizations build something and they publicize one thing, you better believe it's going to have several uses on the other side. Okay, remember that. But I ask you this, what would man want to protect himself from if nothing exists outside of Earth?
These are the WTF Files. Subscribe today and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Thank you for watching the WTF Files.